I'm Erica Hollingsworth, and you're listening to the F1 podcast.
What's up, everyone? It is Richie here from the F1 podcast. Today is May 4th, or for some Star Wars fans, May the 4th be with you. We are recording this a couple hours after the Miami Grand Prix. I'm here with Erica Hollingsworth. Erica, how are you doing this fine Sunday?
I am doing a-okay. How are you, Richie?
I'm good. I mean, it was an interesting weekend in terms of Formula One, but we'll get right into that. Miami. I'm gonna be honest, I have a love-hate relationship with this track.
I kind of love the track, but I hate the race weekend as a whole. That's the best way I can think to describe it.
I don't know if you saw, they extended the contract for Miami till 2041. Clearly there is some sort of success for this track or for this race here in Miami. I think it's over $500 million of economic benefits that this weekend brings compared to all the home games combined for the Miami Dolphins. So clearly something's working, but I mean, I looked at tickets. I think the average price was like 1,300 American or something silly like that that Kim Illman posted. And top it off, like the stands did not look full until today
I
to
know
certain points.
it's one of those where you kind of wonder, like, when we've been at the race in Montreal, doesn't matter what the weather's like, those things are packed. Maybe Friday's not so busy, but Saturday with qualifying, definitely Sunday. And people are willing to stick it out. They just want to be there. And we've always wondered with Miami, right? Because it was such a spectacle the first few years with all the celebrities and like blocks of tickets and everything being, kind of closed out so that people didn't have to sit near one another. But I kind of wonder, is it the people who are going are there for the spectacle? They're not really there for the racing, right? And that's maybe why when it was so rainy and gross on Saturday, we didn't really see the turnout in the stands that we might have expected.
And like talking to a couple of people, that's like kind of what they say. Just in general about Miami, it's like you're just going in there to party. And like I'm not like I'm not criticizing that. That's totally fine. I get it. It's nice weather down there, and just like not a lot of people can have the nice weather and but they want to take advantage of it. But at the same time, I mean, you have a fake marina.
I hate the fake marina. I know we talk about it all the time, but for a temporary track, it's not like that's a permanent fixture they have to keep year over year, right? They could choose to do something different with it. But they're very committed to the bit. I kind of respect them for it, even though it's not my favorite feature of a circuit.
They also have a pool, so people can like swim during the race. And I think Kim Illman even said that like the people in the pool that day didn't even like watch the race. They just I'm like, can you imagine spending that much money and then just sit in the pool, not even watch the race? Like I don't know, it baffles me. But hey, it's Miami. It's whatever.
Miami.
It's
It's
what
Miami, baby.
if we have fall. I think we have a couple people that went this weekend. Let us know how it was. But I mean, let's start with the sprint race. What were your first takeaways? I think honestly, Lewis Hamilton got saved with a couple of that strategy call by Ferrari, but the McLarens look good. Kimi Antonelli very much impressed us in qualifying. Didn't have maybe the greatest of sprint races, just because of the situation in the pit lane with Max Verstappen. But I mean, overall, what do you think about the sprint on Saturday?
I was super entertained, quite honestly. Even starting with qualifying. I mean, sprint qualifying was a bit of a gong show in Q1, especially. I mean, I think of the five drivers eliminated, four of them didn't even set a lap time by the time it was all said and done. It's a little bit of a shorter slot, and people were really risking it by pitting to put an extra set of tires on. And that I think just added to the chaos we saw with the rain on Saturday. I mean, we were seeing drivers moving left, right, and center, some really, challenging moves being pulled out, and ultimately kind of resulted in a few folks maybe not having the Saturday and the points finish they would have hoped for in the
Well,
sprint.
well, Charles Leclerc, like the formation lap, just like absolutely sending it into the wall. And it's interesting because you had this sprint race, I think maybe earlier that afternoon or maybe earlier Monday. Sorry, earlier morning. Someone fact check me, please. and then a couple hours later, then you had qualifying for Sunday's race. So it's like you couldn't really completely send it because then you have to forfeit your Sunday's race. So a lot of teams are obviously, with the weather, what are they gonna do? And we saw a couple of that. And I guess like, let's talk about. I mean, for me, it was interesting to see you know, they took Lewis Hamilton took a gamble on the softs when the track was drying up, and I said, "Oh no, is this going to be a terrible Ferrari strategy?" But they were able. He was the first one to do it, and then able to get on a podium on the Saturday.
It's one of those where we've talked about it before, the strategy call with track evolution, right? If it's not actively raining, you might start on an inter, but things can dry up pretty quick. So the fact that they were shockingly at Ferrari able to make that decision and go forward with it early on, which I don't think many of us would expect if we're going tire strategy in Ferrari. We're not marrying the two. Especially in a sprint race. But it went really well. I mean, at one point, I think Lewis was P17, and just that tire change alone launched him to P3 after a few laps. So, a really great call from him and from the team to go ahead and do that and kind of take that risk when I think most of us were looking and still thinking it might have been a little too damp for those tires. So, definitely a risk that paid off.
And not only like the other Ferrari driver, Charles Leclerc, like you had, Carlos Sainz clip the wall in the entrance of turn 15 on lap 12, forced him to retire. Then Fernando Alonso, Austin Martin clipped Liam Lawson. Liam Lawson was just getting hit left, right, and center this weekend. And he spun and destroyed the rear right in his front wing, forcing him to side. Like, I didn't realize Miami was going to be such a terrible track with rain.
But I think it's a mix of it, right? I mean, the team hasn't been, we've got a lot of young drivers who aren't super used to those kinds of conditions yet. The cat's wanting to be the main character in this story right now. But we've got a lot of young drivers on the grid, of which I know we all look at Lawson and he's not quite as young and green as some of them, but he is still like a very young new driver. And they're not used to this. And it is a pretty fast track, all things considered, compared to other places that they've raced. You really don't have a lot of margin for error in a few places. It's very easy to lock up, lose control in any way, shape, or form, and risk a lap time deletion or a crash because you've got a wall right there. So it's really one where the tenured folks that can finesse their way around are really getting the leg up.
Not only the leg up, but what happened in that pit lane? I just couldn't get like what an unsafe release. Like you think that like the experience that Red Bull has that knew that they saw Kimi coming in, that maybe they should have waited an extra second, but they sent him in when they were both diving in. And there was actually one point, I think it was Lando Norris almost hit one of Charles' like engineers, I think in today's race. But yeah, I don't know if you've noticed that clip. Ollie, we love Ollie. Um,
He's
but
just
yeah.
really excited to talk about F1 today.
Oh, we haven't talked about Ollie Behrman yet, but yeah, we can talk about him. I don't forget what he did this weekend. Oh, didn't he get on the points on? No, yeah, did he get points on Saturday? But yeah, oh yeah, Behrman was also hit with a 5-second penalty for unsafe release from the pits. Promoted Russell to fourth, Stroll to fifth, while Yuki Tsunoda and Pierre Gasly moved up to sixth, seventh, and eighth respectively. So a little bit of mixture throughout the weekend, but also yeah, Lando won Saturday. Lando always, as of recent, has been doing well at at Miami, and since his win last year. And Oscar made the comment, "Oh, don't buy a scratch ticket yet, because Sunday could just be, the safety car really benefits Lando, I guess, in Miami." But I guess any last comments about Saturday? But
I just hope that the rest of the sprint races this season bring the same kind of excitement because a few years ago we were basically seeing, wherever you were on the grid, that was the position you finished in after a sprint race for the
yeah.
most part. So, I'm actually excited to see that we get a lot of movement and a lot of excitement and chaos out of these races now, and I just hope that continues, especially when we've had a really dominant season from a few teams. So it's always nice to see others get those few extra points and put a little bit more pressure on the midfield when we have these sprint race weekends.
Well, talking about movement and dominance, let's get into Sunday. Oscar Piastri, man, he is on a different mission year. I think he was tired of being the number two driver at McLaren. Sorry. There's no, I love you, Zach, but number one drivers. Clearly, it looks like it might come to a little bit of a fight this season. For the first time in 20 something years since maybe Mika Häkkinen, when he was driving McLaren, Oscar Piastri's won three straight races.
It is a pretty big deal over there. You'd think these boys were Canadian because with two double finish podiums this week, they sure love a double double. But I came up with that earlier, I had to say.
That will
But
make a great reel. Thank you very much.
you are very welcome. Enjoy that. Um, yeah, this was pretty well like a master class in driving from Oscar, just pretty smooth sailing through on Sunday from start to finish. He's working hard. It's showing. I know I've said, last week when we were talking with Cleary, it's really proving that if you have good mentorship and a level head on your shoulders as a driver, it can take you really far. Like we have, not that there was any mistake really from Lando this weekend. He kept it tight. He had a good weekend of racing. But to your point, Oscar's just on that other level. I mean, Mark Webber is clearly teaching him everything he knows. And to boot, we all knew he was a talented guy. Like, we were not surprised that he wanted to race with McLaren instead of Alpine, and he obviously hitched his horse to the right, like his cart to the right horse on that one. Um, and it seems like everything he's been working for and that really calm, cool, collected, chill attitude that was funny for the first couple of seasons is really showing that it provides some merit to the guys at the front of the grid as well. So it's just proving that even though some of the other people are starting to bring improvements to the car, I know Red Bull had worked on the underside of the car of the chassis this week, and we're hoping that the floor being different would provide a little bit more benefit, but still couldn't get that podium finish from Max. So they're really just the team as a whole doing super well. But if they really don't continue this momentum and make it clear that Oscar is their number one driver, I do worry that later in the season, if the car continues to be dominant, we're going to see some infighting between the two, and we're going to get very 2016 Nico, like Rosberg, Hamilton type of vibes there. And I don't think anyone wants that because that just puts the team as a whole at risk.
No, and especially like how we've seen the last couple of seasons that if, those maximize of points in the sense that, and then it creates some errors that like, a team like Ferrari or team like Mercedes and like, maybe Mercedes is the sleeper team this season right now is they'll just take up opportunities. George Russell even said that I needed a miracle to get on the podium today. Like he didn't think he deserved to be on it. But like, we talk about that calm, cool collectiveness. I mean, especially when you got Max Verstappen in your rear view mirrors. And even the first couple of laps, the little battle between the two McLarens and Max. And Max is not afraid well, not only that, but you had the Lego cars beforehand and them just hitting each other. Like the battle was on from the minute they stepped onto the track.
Yep. And we're seeing that Oscar is not afraid to put his elbows up as well. There were a few times he and Max were going into some corners, and similar to the race a couple of weeks ago, he's gonna take that line if he thinks he has it, and he does not give two hoots who he's knocking off the track. He did it to Kimmy, he's done it to Max. He's coming for everybody, but we're really starting to see, I think, maybe a bit of a shakeup at Mercedes as well. I mean, Kimmy was doing pretty well for qualifying. For sprint qualifying. It was a good showing from him finishing P6 this week. And as much as, people might say George is still ahead, I don't think he's the leaps and bounds ahead. I
No.
mean, we all knew Kimmy would be a special talent. Who else lets a guy just like skip F2 when he's 18 and drive a Mercedes?
Also gets his actual driver's license 60 days ago or something like that is still kind of wild. So it's like, what were you doing?
Can you imagine you're a professional race car driver, but you can't drive yourself to the track?
Not only the tractor, go to the grocery store or
Exactly.
anything. So your mom has to drive you. Like, yeah, it's wild.
It's
Well,
like
yeah, and you talk about that. I think he set the record for the youngest ever qualifier or to win qualification. It's just like they got a little jewel, and it's like, Toto is pretty happy, probably should be happy with him in the second seat.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what comes from him for the rest of this season. And who knows, we all saw some interesting change of dynamics once George was proving himself over at Mercedes. It could stand to reason that maybe there'll be another shift if Antonelli continues to really be showing that he's got what it takes to be in that seat, not just as a second driver, but to actually put some serious points on the board for the team overall.
I think other teams that were clearly, yes, Max had a very interesting weekend, all over the place. Some tough fighting, and it's like you can only defend for so much. I'm gonna be honest. If we can jump to Ferrari just really quickly. I have a lot to vent.
Do it.
This this car looks so ugly this weekend. It was just why so much blue and white for the Tifosi, the Rosso. Like what the? It was
I
ugly.
I remember last year because I think it was for Miami, HP had signed as a sponsor and they teased us with this really beautiful blue car, which was weird because that's not what you associate with Ferrari, but it's Miami, it's kind of the vibe and the color. And then all it was the logo and maybe like a helmet. This is taking it a step further, but I don't think it's a step in the right direction if they're trying to incorporate the brand
Are they
color.
trying? I guess they're trying to be a little American. I don't know if HP is American, right? Like I would
I'm
have.
pretty sure,
I
yeah.
hope so. This would be awkward, but I don't know if you saw Podium Queens is real, where they're like, "Oh, we're gonna go see the new Ferrari car," and then they go to like a Staples or something and just get a bunch of HP printers.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I'll post a shout out to her. But like, yeah, it was just ugly, and then there was just like ugly banter between both Lewis and Charles. I think it's been the most public that I think I've seen so far this season. For those that don't remember, like Charles started 8th and Lewis started 12th on the grid, respectively. Didn't have maybe the greatest of qualifications, so like they are probably in the fourth fastest car right now. I think there's no secret about it. But then there was a moment where Lewis was complaining that he was burning his tires behind Charles and said like, we need to make a decision. Like I'm wasting 3 laps basically behind him. I'm faster than him. And then he made a comment that like, oh, go on a cappuccino break. Just a heads up, you don't have a cappuccino in the afternoon. Just as an Italian, you just don't do
It's
it.
got milk in it. You don't do that in Italy. No milk in your coffee in the afternoon, right?
No grazie, no
Mhm.
grazie. But yeah, and then just the infighting about that, and then later on, just like complaints. It's just like woof. Like I that cool down room between them two, where the engineers call at the end of the night. It it's weird. Like I knew that there was going to be tension, but I guess you're what, 25% in the season already, close to that. Got pretty public, and they were like both the drivers really complained, I think the night before in their like post sprint races. Like I'll just read a couple of quotes real quick. The fact that it is that I'm not accepting it, it's just not good enough. It's frustrating because there's been a quite few races already that I feel like I'm doing a good job, but when you're finishing P4, P5, P6, P7, it's just a shame. Lewis Hamilton, we're 6 races in, but we're struggling big time. We're trying our hardest not to make the big setup changes. But now, no matter what we do, it's so inconsistent when we go out. We got problems with the brakes. We got problems with the stability. We got generally not quick enough. Just get into Q3. It's just tough for us at the moment. And it's just like, whew.
And I think that's it because I believe Lewis didn't make Q3 in one of the qualifyings this weekend, right? So, but again, they're not the fastest car out there, but they have two talented drivers who I think are dragging that car as far forward as they can. And to boot, it was a little frustrating. I mean, I know Sainz was right on Lewis's rear for quite a fair amount of time and within DNS range. It's part of where that why don't you go for your cappuccino break or your tea break or whatever he said came from because he felt he had the pace to go ahead of Charles and not have Sainz within DNS. But we know Charles is the number one driver, but it's tough when your number two driver is Lewis effing Hamilton. So I think similar to McLaren, those team dynamics are really going to be challenged and they're going to struggle trying to keep everyone happy and to maximize the number of points they can get in this car. Because I do think those egos are going to come into play at some point and really start to clash a bit because Lewis is not going to be happy playing second fiddle to Shaw if he's in a subpar machine where he knows he can deliver better than his teammate is doing.
And Erica, I think one not a lot of people realize this. Do you know what's after Miami? The
I believe
Emilia
we're going to the
Romagna Grand Prix.
motherland.
Yeah. So you're going into the heartland of the Tifosi, and this shit's already like happening before. And so like yes, the support will be there, but then you have the Italian media gonna be very adamant on their questions of like, okay, what is realistic this season? Like, why aren't you guys figuring this out? You know, Fred Vasseur, like, what's the problem? What's the plan? What's the future? So you go to Ferrari's home track, it's not gonna be easy to see.
No, they're going. I'm so curious what the reception will be because it's been a less than ideal start to the season than what I think a lot of folks were expecting out of Ferrari coming off the end of the 2024 season. But we'll see what the team's able to do. And who knows, maybe they're one of those ones who's sandbagging a little bit to make the most of the new regs in 2026, and we'll all be eating our words a year from now. So.
You talk about reception and like what will Carlos Sainz get back in in Italy as someone who's driving for Williams, was a competitor against Ferrari a number of years, maybe not so much recently, but like what him and Alex Albon have been able to do with James Vowes in that car, especially this weekend, getting both double points. I think what was it? I think it was double points. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, Alexander Albon actually finished ahead of both Ferraris in P5
Yeah.
with the Williams. And Carlos Sainz was in a very respectable position as well, finishing P9 just inside the points. So,
I should also note, I think there's a couple, we're still waiting from the FIA on a couple. There's some stuff going to the technical room for review. So while we do this episode, things might change real quick.
wouldn't be the first time we've made a sweeping declaration or assumption, only for it to change before we've published an episode. So
You lose.
bear with us. That's the joys of doing things snappily and live and on the fly. So. It's but yeah, Williams, I think, some folks were wondering a little bit last year what the future for Jimmy V was. Not really the stellar start they all hope, but I think it's showing it takes a little bit of time to get traction and to change some of what was going on behind the scenes, but for what we would consider to be typically a bottom of the pack car, they're doing relatively well this season. I mean, Williams is P5 in the Constructors' Championship.
That's incredible for them.
Now there's a big gap between them and Ferrari. It's like 57 points. Never do math in public, but I'm pretty sure it's 57 points. They're sitting at 37, Ferrari at 94. So and this is, kind of including the disqualifications
Yeah.
in China. So I mean, you've got Albon who has got points in 5 of 6 races. For the 3 that Sainz has scored points in, he's been improving over time. He had 2 retirements, which I think was unfortunate. But it's everything's coming up Williams if we're talking about the midfield.
And like, could they get on a podium if things go their way, if they are this consistent? Like, if there is some sort of crash between the McLarens and Verstappen up top, like
Some Hungarian Grand Prix from a few years ago, where it was just
Brazil
Do a
last year
barrel
with the
sent to
roll.
two
everyone.
Alpines. Yeah, yeah, it could happen. It could
Stranger
happen.
things have happened, and I mean, another team I kind of want to give a shout out to. They didn't finish in the points. I do kind of wonder what happened, but Ollie Behrman with his Haas, just all this, a team that I felt has been doing relatively well, getting points in a few races, and all of the sudden the car just decided it didn't want to go anymore.
Yeah, because they had to stop on their car because stop on the track because of mechanical issues. Yeah, we had all like a lot of eyes on Ollie to do well this season, and yeah, it's just kind of what's going on, man. It's kind of get out of this little hoop de loop, whatever they are in right now, and just kind of like get out of here. But
I don't know that they really knew what was going on either. Just mechanical issue, and they're probably debriefing as we speak to figure out what the problem was.
yeah, and I guess like, is there any kind of final thoughts that you have going into going out of Miami into Emilio Romano? Like, I think one, I'm just like looking at quick stats right now. McLaren's 246, Mercedes 141, Red Bull 105, which is basically the Max Verstappen car. Um, Ferrari 94. Yeah, I'm just shocked on how big the lead is so far for McLaren this early on the season. Never say never, but like they're looking pretty comfortable with how the season started.
Yeah, they've got a lot of playing room. I mean, they have a 105-point lead over Mercedes, which is pretty significant, honestly. I'm curious to see how there's two things I'm really looking for. One, we saw Red Bull bring an improvement to the car. I expect to see a few other teams starting to bring that. We're 6 races in. This is kind of around the time folks are wanting to maybe change some things in their setup. I don't know if anyone's going to take too drastic a swing
Yeah.
given the fact that everything's changing next year, but out of hope, desperation, whatever, maybe we will see something kind of crazy come out at Ferrari or at Williams or at one of these other teams in the hopes of maximizing points in the Constructors' Championship to have enough money to really bring things to the 2026 regs. The second thing I'm really curious to see is to what we said before, the ego of all these teams and how the dynamics are going to shake out. We've got quite a few folks where it's kind of contentious and could be debated who's the number one and who's the number two, but both drivers are pretty certain that they are the number one driver. And I think it'll lead to, if not some interesting action on the track, some very interesting news dynamics, possibly mid-season, off-season movements between teams if folks are really feeling like they're not getting the recognition that they deserve. I know there's been rumors of George being eyed by Red Bull for a seat, which would terrify me. I know they say George in a Red Bull jumpsuit can't hurt you. He's not real, but I don't buy it. I think George in a Red Bull jumpsuit very much could hurt me. He's wanted that Mercedes seat for so long, and he finally got it a few years ago. He's finally in a car after struggling for a few years that can do well and deliver. But yeah, I'm curious to see if maybe the pressure from Antonelli will force him to do something drastic. And the same goes for McLaren between Norris and Piastri.
And all you're hearing all these stupid rumors of like Max Verstappen potentially going to Aston Martin, like, Daddy Stroll dropping Lance Stroll. I mean, these are just rumors, but F1 Cadillac did like an event in Miami this weekend. I don't think Colton Herta and Sergio Perez were at that actual Cadillac event. I think Sergio Perez was at the race this weekend. Don't quote me, but I don't know, when do we start to get that announcement of like who is going to be in those two seats? So like, and is like, could there be a sleeper pick and Daniel Ricciardo coming back, or maybe Valtteri Bottas going into that? You never know, but
Mhm.
like, still very early on in the season.
We're a quarter of the way in. I wouldn't be shocked if the closer we get to the summer break, stuff starts happening. So keep your ears to the ground, people, and tell us of any rumors you hear, no matter how far-fetched they may be.
And not only that is we're just only a couple of weeks away from the Canadian Grand Prix. Myself and Andrew are going to be there, and you get to see Nicole Haverda race in F1 Academy. So we'll be cheering her on and hopefully get some points in our home race. That would be very big for us to see. But I guess on that note, Erica, this is the F1 podcast. Make sure to follow us on all of our social medias on Linktree. You can find us on, I think it's Instagram, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TikTok, Threads. I think I got them all. Season 5, Episode 8. Thank you as always. And this is the Miami Grand Prix recap, and we'll see you in the next episode.